The moment I told my husband I was pregnant, I thought it would be a happy memory, but it turned into a nightmare I'll never forget. I don't want a child. Get an abortion, he yelled, his face full of anger. His words cut deep, but what he did next shocked me even more. He grabbed my neck in fury and punched me hard in the chest, leaving me gasping for air. His grip tightened as I struggled to breathe, my vision fading before I collapsed on the floor. What happened after that was even more shocking. Hello, my name is Ava, and this is the story of how I found the strength to fight back and reclaim my life. I grew up in the bustling city of Denver, Colorado, and worked as a graphic designer for a small but creative agency. At 27 years old, I loved my job and was passionate about turning ideas into visual stories. Life felt promising, filled with opportunities and dreams. That's when I met Ethan, a 31-year-old entrepreneur who ran a marketing consultancy. At first, Ethan seemed like everything I had ever wanted: charming, intelligent, and supportive. He had a way of making me feel seen, valued, and special. We met at a networking event, and our connection was instant. Ethan soon became a regular presence in my life, always encouraging me in my career and showering me with attention. I thought I had found someone who truly understood me. After months of dating, Ethan proposed during a sunset dinner by the lake, and I said yes, without hesitation. It felt like a fairy tale. Our wedding was beautiful, filled with laughter, friends, and promises of a happy future. I believed I was marrying the love of my life, someone who would be my partner in everything. But as the months passed, cracks began to appear. After our honeymoon, Ethan suggested that I leave my job to focus on our home. "You shouldn't have to work so hard," he said one evening, his tone persuasive. "I can provide for us. You deserve to enjoy life." I hesitated. My career was an important part of who I was. "But I love what I do, Ethan. My work is my passion," I replied. "It's not that I don't want you to work," he insisted, his voice calm but firm. "I just want to take care of you. You can focus on building a family and I'll handle everything else." I wanted to believe he was looking out for us, so I agreed to leave my job, thinking it was a sacrifice worth making for our future together. At first, I poured myself into creating a warm, loving home. I decorated our space, cooked his favorite meals, and planned for what I thought would be a bright future. But Ethan's attitude began to shift. He became more distant and critical, rarely appreciating my efforts. Instead of being the supportive husband I had married, he started treating me like an employee, expecting me to cater to his every whim without question. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself that this was just a phase and that things would get better. But nothing could have prepared me for the night that changed everything. The night I told him I was pregnant. 3 months into our marriage, I noticed some changes in my body. I was feeling nauseous in the mornings and unusually tired. I suspected something life-changing was happening. With a mix of excitement and nerves, I bought a pregnancy test from the store and anxiously waited for the results. When the test confirmed I was pregnant, I couldn't contain my joy. I was going to be a mother. Eager to share the news, I decided to make the moment special. That evening, I prepared Ethan's favorite dinner, steak with mashed potatoes, and set the table with candles and his favorite bottle of wine. My heart raced with anticipation, dreaming of his smile and how happy he would be. As soon as Ethan walked through the door, I greeted him warmly. "Ethan, I have some amazing news to share," I said, my voice brimming with excitement. He raised an eyebrow as he sat down. "What is it?" I took a deep breath, my hands trembling slightly. "I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby." I waited for his reaction, expecting joy or at least a smile, but what I saw instead froze me in place. His face darkened, his brows furrowing into a deep scowl. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice low and cold. "I'm pregnant," I repeated, trying to keep my tone steady, though his expression unsettled me. "This is wonderful news, Ethan. We're going to be parents." His fork clattered onto the plate as he stood up abruptly, towering over me. "I don't want a child." "You need to get an abortion," he shouted, his voice echoing through the room like a thunderclap. My heart sank, and I stared at him in disbelief. "What?" Ethan, this is our baby. How can you even say that? I pleaded, hoping he would calm down and see reason. Instead, his anger only escalated. You're being selfish. You didn't even ask me if I wanted this, he roared, stepping closer to me. Before I could respond, he reached out, grabbing my neck in a sudden fit of rage. His grip was tight, cutting off my air, and I struggled against him, gasping for breath. Then, without warning, he raised his fist and punched me hard in the chest, sending me sprawling onto the floor. Pain shot through my body as I landed, dazed and terrified. My vision blurred, and I struggled to stay conscious as he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. I lay on the floor, trembling and gasping for air, trying to process what had just happened. The man I had trusted with my heart and my life had become a monster. But as I lay there, tears streaming down my face, something inside me shifted. I couldn't live like this anymore. I wouldn't let him destroy me or my child. That night, I made a decision. I had to leave for my safety and the safety of my unborn baby. I packed a small bag with essentials, grabbed my purse, and drove to the one person I knew I could count on, my father. I drove through the dark streets, my hands trembling on the wheel, the events of the evening replaying in my mind. I was hurt, scared, and heartbroken, but I knew I couldn't let that stop me. I had to protect myself and my unborn child. My father, Paul, lived in Kansas City, where he managed a chain of successful restaurants. I knew he would help me. He always had a way of making me feel safe, even in the worst moments. When I arrived at his house late that night, I knocked on the door, feeling a mix of fear and relief. My father opened the door, his expression shifting from surprise to concern as he saw me. "Ava? What happened? You look pale," he said, pulling me into the house. Tears welled up in my eyes as I recounted everything that had happened, Ethan's explosive reaction, his violence, and the betrayal I felt. My voice trembled, and I struggled to get the words out, but my father listened intently, his jaw tightening with every word. "I can't believe he would do that to you," my father said, his voice heavy with anger and concern. "You deserve so much better, Ava. You're staying here with me. We'll figure this out together." That night, as I lay in the guest room, my mind raced with questions. How had things gone so wrong? How could the man I once loved turn into someone so cruel? I knew I needed answers, and I needed to take action. The next morning, over breakfast, my father placed a hand on mine. "I think we need to dig deeper into Ethan's life. There's something off about this whole situation," he said. "I know someone who can help, a private investigator. If Ethan's hiding something, we'll find out." I nodded, a mix of fear and determination settling in my chest. "I need to know the truth, Dad. Whatever it is, I have to face it." Later that day, my father introduced me to Thomas, a seasoned private investigator he had worked with before. Thomas was kind but direct. "Ava, I'll do everything I can to find out what Ethan is up to. It might take a few days, but I'll keep you updated." As I waited for answers, I tried to focus on regaining my strength. My father was my rock during those days, reminding me of my resilience and that I wasn't alone in this fight. But deep down, I was bracing myself for what Thomas might uncover. 3 days later, Thomas called. "Ava, I found something you need to know," he said, his voice steady but serious. My heart raced. "What is it?" I asked, gripping the phone tightly. "I've been tracking Ethan's movements and speaking to some of his contacts. It appears he's been having an affair with his assistant, Mia, for several months," Thomas revealed. I felt like the floor had fallen out from under me. "An affair? Are you sure?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Thomas confirmed. "But that's not all. I've also uncovered some suspicious financial activity. It seems Ethan and Mia are involved in illegal money laundering through his business." The words hit me like a freight train. Not only had Ethan betrayed me, but he was also entangled in criminal activities. The man I thought I knew was a stranger. That evening, I sat down with my father, sharing everything Thomas had uncovered. "Dad, I can't believe this. Ethan has been cheating on me and breaking the law. I need to do something about this." My father's expression was grim but determined. We'll take care of this, Ava. You're not alone in this fight. You need to file for divorce, and we need to bring this evidence to the authorities. I nodded, my resolve hardening. You're right. I'm done being afraid. It's time for Ethan to face the consequences of his actions. The very next morning, I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer my father had recommended. Her name was Clara, a sharp and experienced attorney who specialized in cases involving abuse and financial misconduct. As I sat across from her in her office, I recounted my story, sparing no details. Ava, I'm so sorry you've gone through this, Clara said, her voice calm, yet filled with empathy. We'll make sure you and your child are safe, and that Ethan faces the consequences of his actions. But to build a strong case, we'll need solid evidence of the abuse, infidelity, and his illegal activities. I already have evidence from the private investigator, I said, handing over the files Thomas had compiled. There are records of his affair and his financial crimes. Clara reviewed the documents, nodding as she flipped through the pages. This is excellent. With this, we can not only secure your divorce, but also push for criminal charges against Ethan. We'll file the paperwork immediately. Leaving Clara's office, I felt a surge of empowerment. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was regaining control of my life. But there was one more thing I needed to do: confront Ethan. I wanted him to know that I wasn't the frightened, submissive woman he thought I was. I wanted him to see the strength he had underestimated. With Clara's advice, I arranged to meet Ethan in a public place, a coffee shop in the city center. My father insisted on accompanying me, and though I was nervous, I knew I had to face Ethan head-on. I wasn't going to let him manipulate me ever again. The day of the confrontation, I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made me feel confident and strong. My father dropped me off at the coffee shop and waited in his car nearby, ready to step in if things escalated. I walked in, scanning the room until I spotted Ethan sitting at a corner table. He looked up as I approached, his face a mix of surprise and suspicion. Ava, he said, leaning back in his chair. You finally decided to talk to me. Good. We need to sort this out. I sat down across from him, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination. Yes, Ethan, we do need to talk. I know about Mia. I know about your affair and the illegal activities you've been running through your business. His expression froze for a moment before he chuckled nervously. What are you talking about? You're making things up, Ava. Don't lie to me, I said, my voice steady. I have proof, emails, transactions, surveillance footage. Everything. His smirk disappeared, replaced by a cold glare. So, this is what you've been doing? Spying on me? You think you can just walk away and ruin my life? I'm not ruining your life, Ethan. You did that all by yourself. I've already filed for divorce, and I'm working with the authorities to make sure you're held accountable for everything you've done. His fists clenched on the table, and for a moment, I thought he might explode. But instead, he leaned forward, his voice low and threatening. You'll regret this, Ava. You have no idea what you're getting into. I refuse to let his intimidation tactics work. I've lived with regret long enough, Ethan. I'm not afraid of you anymore. With that, I stood up and walked out of the coffee shop, my heart pounding but my resolve stronger than ever. My father was waiting outside, and as I got into the car, he smiled at me. You handled that like a champion, Ava. I just want this to be over, I said, leaning back in the seat. But I know this is only the beginning. The days following my confrontation with Ethan were filled with a whirlwind of meetings, documents, and emotional preparation. Clara and her team worked tirelessly, filing the divorce papers and submitting the evidence against Ethan to the authorities. Meanwhile, Thomas, the private investigator, continued to dig deeper into Ethan's financial dealings, uncovering even more incriminating evidence. One evening, as I sat at the dining table with my father, Clara called with an update. Ava, the authorities are moving forward. Based on the evidence we've provided, they're preparing to bring Ethan in for questioning. They've also frozen his accounts to prevent further illegal activity. A wave of relief washed over me. Thank you, Clara. What happens next? They'll conduct an official investigation, and if everything checks out, which I'm confident it will, Ethan and his accomplice will face serious charges, she explained. But be prepared, Ava. Ethan might try to retaliate or contact you again. Stay safe and keep your distance. I assured her I would, but deep down I knew Ethan wasn't going to give up without a fight. True to Clara's warning, Ethan began bombarding me with messages and calls. He alternated between pleading with me to drop the case and threatening me with dire consequences. I blocked his number, but the fear lingered. A week later, Clara called again with more news. Ava, the authorities have completed their investigation and are ready to proceed. Ethan and Mia will be arrested tomorrow morning. My breath caught. Arrested? Yes, she confirmed. The charges include fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. This is a big step toward justice, Ava. The next day, I anxiously waited for an update. Around noon, Clara called to confirm that Ethan and Mia had been taken into custody. It's done, Ava. They're being held for questioning, and formal charges will follow. The prosecutor is confident this case will hold up in court. Hearing those words brought a mix of emotions, relief, triumph, and a tinge of sadness for what could have been. Ethan had once been the man I loved, but he had chosen a path of deceit and destruction. Now, he was finally facing the consequences of his actions. A few weeks later, Ethan and Mia's trial began. I sat in the courtroom, supported by my father and Clara, as the prosecutor laid out the case against them. The evidence was overwhelming. Detailed records of fraudulent transactions, surveillance footage of their secret meetings, and testimony from witnesses who had been involved in their schemes. Ethan's defense was weak, and his lawyer's arguments couldn't hold up against the mountain of evidence. After several days of testimony and deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Ethan to 7 years in prison for fraud and money laundering, along with hefty fines to compensate for the damages he had caused. Mia, as his accomplice, received a lighter sentence, but was also held accountable for her role in the crimes. As the judge announced the verdict, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Justice had been served. Ethan would no longer have the power to hurt me or anyone else. With the legal battle behind me, I focused on rebuilding my life. I moved back to Denver and began freelancing as a graphic designer again, finding joy in the creative work I had once loved. My father remained my biggest supporter, constantly reminding me of my strength and resilience. Months later, I welcomed my baby, a beautiful, healthy daughter. Holding her in my arms, I felt a sense of peace and purpose I hadn't known in a long time. She was my reason to keep going, to create a life filled with love and hope. The journey had been long and painful, but it taught me the importance of self-worth and standing up for myself. I had turned my darkest moments into a source of strength, proving that I could overcome anything. As I tucked my daughter into bed one night, I whispered, "We're free now, little one. The past is behind us, and the future is ours to create." And with that, I closed the chapter on the life I had left behind, ready to embrace a brighter, stronger future. If you enjoyed this story, I'd love for you to show your support. Please like the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and hit the subscribe button to stay updated with more inspiring and engaging stories. Your feedback and encouragement mean the world to me, and they help me create even better content for you. Thank you for being a part of this journey.